What's up YouTube? This is Odd Job Entertainment. I'm bringing you a little different video today, and today we're going to take a look at doing a paracord bottle wrap. So I've got one of them finished here. This is for the bottle that I take to work. It's actually pretty simple. I'll be going over some of the steps, but you can see the main knot used here is a cow's hitch knot, and then this one has 2 ranger beads keeping it tight, and I'll explain why there's 2 of them there in just a minute. And then just a diamond knot here at the end of the lanyard. Kind of just gives you something to hold on to. We're going to be doing these knots to my brother's high pressure air tank. This is a wrap that I did several years ago. Definitely a pretty rookie wrap. It doesn't look very good. It's a lot of half hitches, and because of the low tension in the half hitches, a lot of them are very irregular and it doesn't look very good anymore. And you can tell I didn't really know what I was doing when I came to the bottom, so just kind of tied it however I could. So I'll be cutting this out of the current wrap that it's in and redoing it to look more like my current tank, which is currently in this pack. If I unzip for you here, I have it hanging on these clips that are usually meant for a hydration pack. And I've just built out a little paracord system for this tank that allows it to use those hooks in a way that allows it to hang pretty well. So it's got a couple little tags there. It's got some strapping that goes along the side that the tags are woven into, and haven't trimmed this one yet, but it's essentially the same wrap as what you saw on the water bottle. So cow hitches all the way going down, and then it terminates on the bottom with some half hitches. So I'll get that other tank cut out and then we'll get started. Alright, so first off, materials you're going to need one shorter length of rope. This is about 2 feet, and this is going to be the adjustment length that you wrap around the neck of the bottle. You're going to need a much longer piece of rope. I've got most of this on the floor next to me, but this is 7 arm spans, comes out to about 45 feet for a bottle this size. You're going to need a lighter. I like this kind that does a jet. Can't see it really well on camera. It does a little jet. I find that that's better than the soft flame type. And I like using X-Acto knives to cut things. They're very sharp, do a pretty good job of cutting the rope. For getting started, we're going to take our smaller length of rope, going to wrap it around the bottle. And for now, I'm just going to tie it kind of loose and just do a square knot. Just like so. Every Boy Scout should know how to do a square knot. So with that started, I've got the melted end of my paracord, and you want it to mushroom out quite a bit because that's going to keep this from coming off. And you're just going to loop it around and do a simple, I've always called it a granny knot, just a simple knot like so, nothing fancy there. And then one other tool that I find useful but is not necessarily required, some sort of caliper so that you can set how wide your loops are going to be. Your net is going to look a lot better if your loop sizes are consistent, so I use this to check my measurements as I go. And to do the knot, to do the cow hitch, you're going to make a loop like so. Let's see, can you get, and then you take this end and you feed it behind and underneath your neckline and come through the loop, and then you pull all the length forward. This part takes a while. pulling it through. All right, then once you get it through, you've now got one loop. So now you take this, the long end, make a loop, push it back behind your neckline. Let's see, like so. And then you're going to bring it down and through the loop in the front. And I'll go back and look through the video. If it's not clear, I'll put up some better looking diagrams. Again, pull it all the way through. And then when you tighten it, you'll have your first cow's hitch. Bring that up close to the camera for you. You get your first knot like that. Then, like I said, I find that this tool is pretty helpful. I think that this is probably a good loop size. So I just make sure my knot is tight and I adjust it to the width of my loop. So now I have a repeatable measurement that I can use for tying the other knots. So a couple considerations to go over before I start doing a bunch more of these. This is Odd Job from the future. I wanted to take another shot at explaining this. Essentially what I'm saying here is that if you want to alter the look of the net, you have two ways to do that. You can tie smaller loops, which will make your loop sizes overall shorter. And if you tie more of them going around the circumference, that will create a more close-knit net pattern. If you have many loops with long loop sizes, that'll give an overall longer length, and that's what I end up doing with this tank. If you want them to look shorter and squatter, fewer knots with smaller loop sizes is what you want to do. Alright, so we've got the first row done. I ended up tying about 8 cow hitches. Now you can see we're starting on the second row, and it's really the same process, except now you're using these loops from the first row to tie your knots for the second row. Every time I'm tying a knot, I'm taking my calipers and I'm checking the length of the strand to make sure that they're staying about the same size. You're going to be repeating these cow hitches a lot, so just keep going round and round until you get to where your bottle, or in this case the tank, starts to change its contour. Okay, so we've reached the bottom of the bottle. Now we're going to switch to half hitches, which is really simple. Take the long end, you feed it over the loop from the previous row, and you're going to pull it over the loop that you just created. Now, one thing I can tell you, having done these a couple times, you want to get this as tight as you possibly can. So the best way that I found to do that is, as you're cinching down, you pull it in towards the middle of your circle, and then use your free hand to kind of keep that in place as you go on to the next part. That's a good example of why that's important, is keeping your hand there, because you don't want it to get away from you. So hold that there, go and make your next loop. And again, you're going to pull right in towards the center. And as you get a few of these done, you won't have to hold them as much, but I find that it's pretty helpful to at least hold the first couple. But these half hitches do a better job of cinching things down than the cow hitches do, which is why we're using them. So just try and get it as tight as you can. I'm going to keep going around. You'll do this a few rounds, and then I'll show you how we finish it off. Okay, so as you can see, we've kind of gotten to the middle, just doing those half hitches all the way around. So the way that we're going to finish this off, it's pretty simple. We're just going to cut and burn it. So got the X-Acto knife. Always try and cut away from yourself. Got the lighter. And you want to melt it and then press it into shape with something metal. That'll kind of cool it, and then also mold it into the shape it needs to be to kind of hold everything secure. If you find that your wrap loosens over time, you can always tighten the bottom, and that's not too hard to do. But if you take the time to try and stretch it as much as you can, probably not going to have to do that. Now, the only thing that we have left to do is to tie a couple ranger beads up here. And the reason why this first one that I showed you ended up having two is I didn't make the first ranger bead as tight as I should have, so it eventually lost all the friction and it doesn't really do a good job of holding on to stuff. So I just recommend making sure that you try and tie that ranger bead as tight as you can, so that it will actually do its job of securing the bottle. There's plenty of tutorials out there of how to tie a ranger bead, so I just defer to one of those. Just Google ranger bead tutorial and you'll be set. I'll come back after I've tied those. Odd job from the future again. I just want to quickly mention that there are quite a few ways that you can create this adjustable lanyard. Ranger bead is one method of doing it, and it creates a nice look because everything is paracord and you don't have any other materials on it. But you could just as easily get a lanyard button. Those are pretty easy to find on Amazon, and that would also work well for this project. The biggest thing is you want to make sure that whatever you're using can provide sufficient enough friction so that the wrap doesn't become loose and just sitting on the bottle. The wrap will inevitably loosen the netting part over time, and that's why we try and get it as tight as possible. And it's important that while that process is happening, the neckline is able to hold its shape and stay in position, because then it will conform to the bottle a little better and give you a better wrap overall. Alright, so got the ranger bead and a little diamond knot tied just to kind of make this look nice. If all you want to do is a bottle wrap, you could stop here. What I'm going to show next is how you can be able to attach it very nicely to other things like the pack. So what we're going to do is I'm going to need a arm span length of rope. Just take it from the spool. Maybe 2 arm spans just to be safe. And cut that off. Burn the ends real quick. Lighter wants to cooperate. There we go. All right, I'm just going to shape that a little bit with this thing just so that it stays kind of narrow, because we're going to need to feed it through a lot of stuff. But essentially what you do here is you pick a spot where you want your attachment point to be. In this case, I'm hanging it from a pack, so I want my attachment point to be above the center of gravity, so probably a band right around here. And I'm just going to feed it underneath for a little section, leave a little bit of slack on the tail end. So to make sure that I do that, I'll just tie a simple knot for now. And this part is easy as far as technique goes. It's just a lot of over and under. And we're just going to keep looping this around our tank or bottle until we run out of cord. And this will do a couple things. One, it's going to cause a bit more tension in your wrapping. So if it wasn't super tight, it will be after this. So that's a benefit. But essentially what this is going to do is it's going to give us a band that we can use for weaving our attachment points onto. So I'll be back after I've used up all this cord. Okay, so ended up that the 2 arm spans made these 2 bands. So you could probably just do 1 arm span for that, 1 arm span for that, and you don't always need both of them. Because I'm mounting this to a backpack, I want it to stay pretty solid vertically. I don't want it to flop around like that as it hangs around from the top one. So I've got 2. Really from here, it's up to you how you want to mount it to the thing. The pack that I'm mounting it to, as I showed you before, has this Molly style weaving on the back. So really I'm just going to weave through these bands on the bottle as well as through the straps on the back of the pack. I'll give you a shot again of what my bottle looks like. If you look closely here, you can see that there's this line that follows up and then forms this chain section. So that's what I came up with for mine. Since it's held inside the backpack in a water bladder pouch, it doesn't move around a lot, but this method of mounting and using those hooks places the weight higher up on my back, which works pretty well in this case. So this is where I'm going to leave you. Get creative, figure out what works best for you. If you do any of these projects, love to see them down in the comments. So anyways, hope this was helpful to you. This is Odd Job Entertainment, signing off. This is Odd Job from the future one more time. I just wanted to clarify that the knot that I used to secure the bands in place was simply a square knot, so nothing too fancy there, pretty simple to do. You just tie it with the remaining ends, and that just holds everything in place. I hope that this tutorial was helpful for you. If it was, please give me a like and subscribe. I do tutorials like this every so often, mixed in with art tutorials and video gameplay. So if that is anything that you are interested in, then this is a channel for you. Your efforts to listen to my videos also goes to fund my college, so thank you for that.